Hello and welcome along to episode 353 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. A big thank you, as always, to our TSP Patreon community, because we couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. Coming up this week on the podcast, it's a busy one. Saints scrape through to the fourth round of the FA Cup with a 3-2 win away at Doncaster. Another dreadful second half performance. It kind of feels like we've been here before. So plenty to talk about tonight. And then it's back to league action on Saturday. It's the start of a huge week of games. Hull City are up first. We're going to preview that game with the help of Ant Northgraves, who comes from a podcast with perhaps one of the best names ever, To Hull and Back. Ant will be with us a bit later on. Plus, in any other business, we've got promising young defenders leaving to join championship rivals and special edition kits that cost more than a return flight to Morocco. My name is Martin Stark. Joining me this week, Steve Grant is the owner of Saints Web. Glenn Delacour is writer of the blog League One -10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo. Welcome along, everybody. Now, we start with some sad news about a fellow Saints fan, Paul Castle, who passed away before Christmas after a short illness at the age of 61. Many of you will have known Paul as a sponsor of both the club and this podcast. And Glenn has put together a few words on our behalf to honour Paul and what he meant to us as a supporter and a previous contributor to TSP.
Yeah. When we were looking for a sponsor for TSP a couple of years ago, Paul stepped up with a sponsorship deal that kind of guaranteed the podcast kept going and that we would carry on meeting the costs incurred with putting this all together. He has appeared on the podcast a few times himself, as you say, and fitted right in. I think his approach could be best described as no bullshit. With Paul being roughly the same age as myself, we became friends away from the podcast. And we used to talk about the fact that even into his late 50s, he would still let a bad Saints result ruin every weekend. A fact that was confirmed by every one of his family who I've had the privilege to meet over the past couple of years. He wondered if I was the same. I told him that I was indeed the same until I was about 30. But then it changed. He seemed genuinely interested and asked what happened. And I paused for comedic effect before saying, I decided it was time I fucking well grow up and you should do the same. He did laugh, but despite knowing I was right and that he was being a bit of an arse, I think he remained steadfast in his grumpiness after a bad result right to the end. He had plenty to be grumpy about in his last full season, which of course was the horrific 12-point Premier League season of 24-25. Grumpiness was in overdrive as he didn't witness a single home league win, as he managed to miss the Everton game. Though he did see us beat Swansea in the FA Cup, which is a game where he invited Steve and myself up to his hospitality box and then kind of tricked me into walking onto the pitch before the game and having a photo taken with the match officials, the mascots, and a slightly confused-looking Jan Bednarek, who didn't know what the hell I was doing there, and nor did I. Paul passed away on the afternoon of the day that Saints played West Brom at home just before Christmas. If you'll remember, in that game, we stormed to a 3-0 lead and then were terrible in the second half, just about escaping with a 3-2 win. Familiar? I can easily imagine what Paul would have been thinking watching that, happy at half-time and then sinking into the depths of misery as the second half went on. Glad we held on for a win as his name, Paul Castle Associates, went round the advertising boards at the end. And we haven't won a league game since. Paul always took an interest in the League One -10 blog as well and insisted that I sent him a link on WhatsApp every time I wrote one because he used to claim technophobia and his inability to look it up. He also insisted that our TSP producer, Alex, did exactly the same thing with links to every podcast that we put out. He did manage to send me a link, though, to his Just Giving page. As recently as August, Paul did a ridiculous 360-kilometre sponsored walk to raise money for the Big Moose mental health charity, wearing his Saints shirt wherever he went, various locations around the south, and quite often being roundly abused for doing so, as you can imagine. He was also majorly involved in arranging various charity walks for the Saints Foundation, in which Francis Benali, amongst others, have participated. Last saw Paul to talk to a week before he passed away when Alfie and myself went up to Winchester to visit. Bearing in mind that he, of course, knew that he didn't have long at this stage, we were quite stunned that he made a point of telling us that he had made provision to carry on supporting the podcast for the company after his passing. I think it speaks to his character as a man who honours his commitments, and it speaks of his support for all things to do with Southampton Football Club. Yeah. So on behalf of everyone at TSP, I'd like to extend our condolences to family and friends, particularly his son Thomas and daughter Holly, and to Paul himself, rest in peace, mate. And all I've got to say is, now in Paul's memory, we are probably going to get very, very grumpy about a game that we actually won.
100%. Nicely put. Thank you, Glenn. I know the club are going to be paying tribute to Paul when that time is right. And as Glenn alluded to, Paul enjoyed nothing more than a good old moan about the football. So that's pretty much what we're going to do for the next hour. And to be honest, there is plenty to moan about this week. Let's start with the game from the weekend. We survived a second half collapse at Doncaster to secure a place in the FA Cup fourth round draw. But again, it leaves us with more questions than answers. Alfie, I feel like I'll give you the honour of talking about the first half, which was fairly routine, quite straightforward, and to a degree, what we were expecting.
Yeah, very kind. I appreciate that, because I'm sure that the other lads will be better in the second half. It was a long journey up on the day. A little bit worried about the weather, but it wasn't too bad in the end. And it was a bit snowy around the ground, but there was sort of no danger of the game being off. So that was obviously a win for everybody. And the first half was routine, as you've said. I thought, Doncaster are obviously a team at the bottom of League One, 23rd in the table. So they've been struggling. Maybe they are a bit better than their results have suggested, but it should have been a routine win for Saints, and they were poor in that first half. They made it really easy. I think it took 8 minutes for Cam Bragg to score his first goal for the club, and he did so in a 4-2-3-1. I probably should mention, to be fair, that's probably the biggest point, that Tom de Rekker finally changed the system at the start and went with a 4-2-3-1. Only sort of 3 or 4 players kept their place from the last league game, so it was a complete refresh. And then Cam Bragg sort of set Matsky up for a shot. There was a bit of deflection, which they took it into the goalkeeper, then took it into the path of Cam Bragg, and he scored. Cameron Archer made it 2-0 about 10 minutes later. That was also a deflection. So a little bit of luck there. But Cameron Archer, to be fair, there was a lovely bit of skill and a nutmeg to sort of get up off a tackle and beat his man for the shot. So it's a couple of bits of fortune in the goals. And then the best goal of the 3, about just before half-time, in my opinion, a brilliant cross from Tom Fellows into sort of the back post. And Matsky seems to hang in the air for ages and sort of neck muscles back across into the far corner. Really good header. 3-0 at half time, and we're all thinking, this is brilliant. And I had a load of people in my Twitter replies saying, look, you weren't there for Tranmere, this isn't over. But I was thinking, come on, don't be stupid. Doncaster rubbish. We're doing well. Daniel Peretz in goal. He fumbled one of the crosses, but he was coming for crosses. In his press conference before the game, he sort of said, I'm a commanding goalkeeper. I want to deal with those sort of situations. And when we watched his clips, we didn't see a lot of that, if I have to be honest. That wasn't the impression we got from him. But he's obviously been briefed that that's what Saints needed. And to be fair, I thought we saw him trying to do that, whether he managed to pull it off or not. So all in all, that first half was really successful. We were all happy.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get the guys' opinions on the goalkeeper in just a moment. Steve, I've seen it described as Tonda's kryptonite. The second half syndrome was another one. But it all just absolutely fell apart within a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to kind of put your finger on it. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it, to see Tonda say in his post-match interviews that that literally the message he gave the players was, we've got to start the second half with a high tempo. And I mean, the evidence of our eyes tells us that the exact opposite was what actually happened. And it does you do kind of wonder what sort of actual authority he has over this squad of players, given that particular admission. I mean, frankly, if I was Eckert, I'd have just tried to bat that question off without answering it, really, quite frankly, because the actual answer actually probably makes him look worse. But I guess we should probably credit Doncaster. I mean, they showed absolutely nothing in that first half. They showed basically why they were second bottom of League One, but also basically just had no confidence about them. Like surely they were briefed beforehand by Grant McCann about how vulnerable we were defensively. Yeah, sure, we've got good attacking players that can harm good Championship defences, let alone rubbish League One defences. So surely you focus on the areas where you can potentially hurt the opposition. And they didn't. I mean, they barely laid a glove on us in that first half, other than that free kick, which Peretz made probably a slightly more comfortable save than it looked in real time. Other than that, there was nothing really for them to get excited about. And then second half, we give away a corner and they score straight from it, which, I mean, the defending just all round for that goal. Peretz doesn't cover himself in glory. I mean, he's probably about 5-6 yards away from it. It's like, how? I don't know how you get that far away from a cross that's landed on a guy's head 3 yards from goal. And the second one, I think 4 or 5 players get pulled in and leaves the one guy completely unmarked at the back post, which, I mean, that's a goal that we've seen many a time in the last probably 4 or 5 years. So usual lessons not being learned. Obviously we then took the coward's approach and went back to the back 5 midway through the second half to try and stem the tide, and it didn't really make an awful lot of difference, I didn't think, in terms of the flow of the game. The only thing that improved us really was, I think, Cienza coming on and getting hold of the ball, Stewart coming on and holding up the ball to a slightly better extent. I thought Archer was decent first half, but he didn't get any service after the break at all. Suddenly Stewart on there, you've got someone that you could aim at either feet or in the air, and it just gave us a little bit more of an outlet. But just so much of our passing was just so sloppy in that second half, and it was just frustrating and irritating that we know that these individual players are better than that showing. I mean, they showed it in the first half under not a huge amount of pressure, but it also does demonstrate how many of them just wilt whenever there's the slightest bit of pressure. And we were ultimately indebted to one wayward finish where the guy shanked it over the bar from about 8 yards out, and 2 headers that were fairly comfortable saves for the keeper, sort of late on, to avoid it being forced into extra time. And I mean, if that had gone into extra time, you sure as hell wouldn't have put any money on us kind of getting our heads together and sorting it out. That's for sure.
Yeah. I would say, Steve, that I'm not sticking up for Tonderecker by any means, because I think that he was too slow to react to what happened in the first sort of 10 minutes of that half. But I think the changes that he made to go back to the 5 at the back, which is indignified. I mean, obviously, if you're 3-0 up at half time at a League One team, you don't want to then have to go to a 5 at the back because there's a genuine fear you might lose the game 15 minutes later. But to be fair, I think it did stem the tide of the game a little. Like, it did change the narrative, because I think Doncaster had sort of 3 or 4 decent chances inside the box in that first 15 minutes of the half. And then they didn't have a shot until the 85th minute after that when he made those changes. So I think clearly they did limit Doncaster in that regard. And it's undignified, but it did work.
It just feels, Glenn, like it's inconclusive evidence, isn't it? Because like you play 4 at the back, we go 3-0 up, and then he switches to 5 at the back, and it does shore things up. So really, it's another game, and we're no further forward with the debate.
I'm interested into what, and we're never going to know this. Well, actually, we might be able to work it out over the next few games. He starts off with a back 4. We play really well. We attack. We have players in front of the ball. Everyone's buzzing around. Fellows is freed from having to play at right back, basically, and he sets up a goal. Matsky's brilliant in the pocket in the number 10. He plays really well, so it's all going well. And then he switches back to a back 3, and it kind of worked. We got hold of the game again. At the end of the day, we won the game. So that's the first time he's made a formation change. So did he make that formation change because he just hooked himself basically and just thought, oh my God, I've got to get back to my default formation?
I think so.
Did he identify, well, if I'm being charitable, you could say, did he see something in the game? I need a third central defender. I need this. Because that's what we've been calling for him to do. In these games where we've been 60 minutes in and we're 1-0 down and we're not having a shot, we've been calling for him to change to a back 4, get an extra player forward, make those kind of decisions. So I'd be interested to see whether, we'll probably start with 3 at the back against Hull. If it's not going well, will he change to a back 4? And so, I mean, hopefully it's proved to him that, that's a good way of attacking, and that BS he came in about limiting our attacking output by not having 3 at the back. Hopefully that's gone from his head now. And so I mean, it might work out well, but I strongly suspect, as Alfie does, that he just panicked and went to his went to his default formation. But yeah,
I think at least he identified the right players to take off at that time on the hour mark, because he brought off Elias Yeller and Jay Robinson, and Jay Robinson had been quite angrily remonstrated with by Taylor Harwood-Bellis about 5 minutes before, because he completely switched off when his marker went right down the byline and put a ball in, which nearly ended up in a goal. And then I think Elias, to be fair, the goal did obviously come from that side. I don't know if he was individually culpable, but yeah, I think he made the right decisions in that moment.
And change things up as well.
Just on Elias Yeller, Steve talked about the first goal, the header from the corner. It's Yeller who's marking the massive guy who scores. I do not understand why we are still doing this. It doesn't work. We try and have smaller players as blockers, and Wood, Harwood-Bellis, and whoever's on the pitch is centre half Quasi. I don't know what they're doing. Are they supposed to be attacking the ball, or what are they doing? But whatever we're doing is not working from the corners. And Peretz got himself in the wrong place, and then he tried to backpedal, but there was a Doncaster guy stood behind him who didn't do anything wrong. He just stood there, and Peretz couldn't get back to get anywhere near the ball. So there was that going on. That's probably a ploy. But yeah, it's Yeller who's marked. Yeller's about 5'6", is he?
If that, yeah.
And that centre half looked about 6'4". So what on earth are we doing? Just go back to basics, put the big players on their big players, and see how it works out, because it can't be worse than what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about the keeper then, Steve. I would say he had a mixed debut. I mean, to be fair, he's not played a lot of football. But the news tonight that it looks like Gavin Bazunu might be off out on loan for the rest of the season. They've kind of made their bed and they've got a lie in it now. So it looks like it's Peretz for the rest of the season. So what did you make of him overall?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, I mean, Victor Johansson to Gavin Bazunu feels like quite the step down for Stoke. See how well that goes. But yeah, I mean, he was, as you say, he was okay. Distribution was fine, although a lot of it was very sort of typical what we're doing at the moment, playing out from the back. So a lot of it was short to Quasi and to Harwood-Bellis. Few sort of slightly better, slightly more ambitious passes out to the fullbacks, sort of over the top of an attacker, which were, I think, those are the sort of passes where I think you judge your goalkeeper's distribution, because you get yourself another 20 yards up the pitch and you take out at least one opposition player in the process of doing it. So I kind of think those are the ones that you want your keeper making. But also you want them saving shots. Decent enough save from the free kick in the first half. Took a cross kind of at the second attempt, I think, shortly just before that, I think it was. Second half, yeah, I mean, in absolute no man's land for that first goal. No idea where he was or what he was trying to do. I mean, he's not blocked off by anybody. So that was what I assumed from, obviously, 100 odd yards away at the other end. I kind of just assumed he must have been completely blocked off by an attacking player, but no, there was nobody anywhere near him.
It was blocked off from coming back to the right place, but why he wandered towards the near post in the first instance, I have
just completely misjudged the flight of it there. But then after that, there were a couple that he came for. There was one that he kind of flapped at a little bit, but it was one of those where he kind of just about did enough, and we had enough bodies behind in case they managed to get a shot away.
Well, he come out to the halfway line and headed one, didn't he, at one point as well?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was fine.
No,
I mean, it was good sweeping up. That was absolutely no problem with that. He had a good starting position, and he got out there first. Made sure
he's obviously very eager to come out and command the area, to be fair, which is what we need. Whether he's good at it, we'll see. But he wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a big lad. If you're a relatively diminutive centre forward, and he's charging out towards you, and you're running onto it, you don't fancy that. So yeah, that kind of show was good. I liked the sort of initiative, and I liked his starting positions for those, because it allows our defence to squeeze up a little bit. We can push up another 10-15 yards, even though we've not got. I mean, Quasi's obviously got pace, but Harwood-Bellis and Wood are a little bit iffy in terms of pace. So yeah, having that sweeper option who's alert to all of this stuff is handy. But I mean, we've not had to see him make a save that you wouldn't expect any keeper to save at this point. There's, I mean, the what was it? The two he had right at the very end were obviously ones that he couldn't handle because they were far enough away from his body. But he got them out of harm's way relatively, and we had enough bodies back to kind of mop up the second balls each time. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when we come up against some slightly more clinical opposition.
Unfortunately, it's been quite a low bar, hasn't it? We'll talk about transfers a little bit later. Need to talk about Romeu as well, Alfie. I'd have put my mortgage on him starting on Saturday, just for everything that was said in the press conference ahead of the game, needing to get him some minutes. The under-21's not playing as well, not even making it into the squad. It's a head scratch. It's a bizarre situation that we find ourselves in. Where do we think he's going to get his minutes from?
Yeah, well, let's see exactly what Tonda said, first of all. He said, when the space is on the pitch are 105 by 68, there are some moments where it's very big and we need to make sure we get him fully fit. So he's saying that he isn't fit enough to play full-sized pitches. That's what he's saying, basically. And to be fair to Tonda, we've seen in games that obviously his legs have gone a little bit. He hasn't been quite at the races. But Tonda said a day before that he just needs minutes. And I don't understand when he thinks he's going to get a better opportunity for minutes than in an FA Cup third round game where less minutes doesn't really matter at a League One team. So, I mean, I don't really buy what Tonda's saying personally. And he knows that. I've told him this. We had a long back and forth, 3 or 4 questions about it. I don't buy it. And Glenn's got his little sign up, which obviously if you're an audio listener, you can't read. So I'm not sure about it. But hey, he just says he's not fit enough at the moment, and that we go into every single game making a decision based on what we think is going to win the game. And that means that he thinks that right now, Barnaby Williams and Romeo Lavia had a better chance of winning Saints that game in various different opportunities than Romeu did, which I find it hard. Oriol Romeu, even if he's not playing, he should be in the squad. He should be around the place, probably. Unless he's a bad character, a bad apple, which I highly doubt he is, because no one's ever said that. He should be there. We have this collapse in the second half. We have a lack of leaders that we always talk about. He is one, and he's just sat at home. He's not even flying to Doncaster with the rest of the group. So I find that really bizarre. And obviously, yes, you can make the argument he's a former Barcelona player, former Chelsea player. Should he have the indignity of sitting on the bench and not coming on in FA Cup third round game at Doncaster? Maybe not, but he's obviously come here wanting to help the team. So let him help. Exactly. He signed the contract. Let him help the team. If he's not ready to play, you've got 4 other players who aren't going to come on every game because you can't bring 9 players on. Just have him around. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'd rather
it feels
have
a bit,
him.
Glenn, like
I'd rather have him as I'm sorry, Martin. I'd rather have him as the assistant manager on the line.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Unofficially, have him on. As you say, have him on there as a substitute. But also, if he's walking up and down, growling up and down the line as well, those players are going to notice because the players have respect for him, even if it doesn't seem the manager does.
And he's earning enough money, by all accounts.
Well, yeah,
we
don't know that, but yeah.
Allegedly, but it just it was more strange words from the manager, wasn't it? It's like, well, do we need to organise a 5-a-side tournament at goals in Millbrook just to get some minutes and get him out?
Oriol was due to play. True. He was due to play for the under-21s in Premier League 2, as I understand it, against Stoke on Friday. That game was called off due to weather, but I still think you can get a car up to Doncaster in 24 hours. I managed it, so. And
we've done it before for players, haven't we? There were some positives. Steve, Cam Bragg, with his goal, must be pushing to become a regular starter. It's a good one to see. He's ticking all the milestones off, isn't he? He's had his debut. He's had his home debut. Scored a goal away from home now.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the goal he remembers, mind. Given he took an absolute battering to the head with about 25 minutes to go. Obviously got subbed off. But yeah, he was decent, neat and tidy as we've already seen from him so far this season. Much more a progressive player than Flynn Downs is. Downs was a little bit better yesterday on the basis that he knew the strength of the opposition. But still, too many of his passes were just bounce passes straight back to the centre back. And with Doncaster not putting any pressure on us, that was a waste of time. But yeah, Bragg was always sort of knowing what was around him, had a good awareness of what was over his shoulder, and yeah, was able to pick passes pretty well. I thought he linked up quite well with Matsky, I thought, because he was kind of dropping into those little holes. It was a little bit strange to couldn't quite work out what the sort of out of possession formation was, because it did seem to fluctuate quite a lot in that first half. Matsky was actually playing almost as a centre forward when their goalkeeper had the ball. Kind of almost as if they felt that he was probably quicker at getting himself back on side than Cam Archer, and you kind of leave Cam Archer as the guy sort of on the shoulder of the last man, and let Matsky do most of the running. But yeah, I mean, it was a good performance by him, as I think, given what we've seen from him against Championship opposition. I think seeing him kind of dominate against League One opposition probably doesn't actually come as a huge surprise now. And even though he's obviously very sort of early in his career, we kind of almost come to expect these sort of neat and tidy performances especially against the weaker opposition, I think.
Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, he got Player of the Week last time out. I'm struggling. Was there anyone else that we could kind of put up against him if we were to do a vote for Player of the Week this time round?
I thought there was a few. I thought there was a few who stuck their hand up and
chuck some names at me.
Quite well. Well, I thought, to be honest, we played with a back four in the first half. I thought Josh Kwasi looked a lot more comfortable in a back four than he does in a three. I think probably because there's less space around him.
Which is what you've been saying for a few weeks, haven't you, about the responsibilities as well? Yeah. They kind of know what they're doing. So,
I thought there was potential there. I know he abandoned it in the second half, but I thought he and Harwood-Bellis, they seem to be, they seem to work quite well together, even though there wasn't much threat from Doncaster in the first half. I think making Harwood-Bellis a captain, I mean, that wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but I can kind of see, giving him that responsibility, you kind of saying to him, okay, you're rule mouth usually, now you've got to back it up because you're actually wearing the armband. So, let's see how that goes. So I thought Josh Kwasi looked decent, centre back. I thought Harwood-Bellis looked better as well. Already mentioned Tom Fellows as a winger. That the goal he set up, and and Matsky's a very interesting player. He's got something about him, hasn't he? Definitely has something about him. Got energy, he's very lively. He needs to cut out the dissent because I think he's been booked 2 games now for mouthing off about a free kick.
Yesterday's one, I think, was doing the sort of waving the yellow card thing.
I think, he got brought down just before someone else got brought down, and we got a free kick for the second one. And so we got a free kick. You don't need to go and argue with the referee to say, book the guy who fouled me that you didn't give a free kick for. I mean, it's just like, just shut up and get on with the game, mate. But he had a good game. He scored a great goal. Had a hand in the first goal as well. So he's an interesting option for your Finn Azaz has these games where he's terrible, doesn't he? Yeah. And maybe if he thinks there's a serious sort of threat to his place, which I think certainly, having seen that yesterday, I sort of think Matsky could certainly be that. And let's face it, in the second half of games, we need all the energy we can get out there. So I thought he had a good game. I quite like Wellington as well. I mean, he's another one. He's a bit like Peretz. He doesn't always get there, but when he decides to go in for something, he goes in for it. There's no messing about. He's not the best. He's never going to be the best. He's playing for us in the Championship against the League One side. But I like the fact that he gets stuck in. And if we're going with a back four, he should certainly be the left back as opposed to Ryan Manning, who, as we all know, does not defend at all. So there were some positives out there, but it's all in the context of playing a League One side, and it was the first half only, pretty much.
Yeah. There is a possible argument with Ryan Manning that he would do better in the four at the back defensively. I know we've seen a bank of evidence already, but not having to cover as much space might make it a little bit easier for him, because it's been getting done from behind this season. Whereas if he didn't have to come forward so much, maybe he wouldn't. But I guess we'll see.
Which I think is how we lined up against Hull last time, which is ironic because we'll get onto that in a minute. The thing is, Alfie, we're through to the fourth round. That draw is on Monday night. You're just hoping for something that's a bit closer to home this time, I guess. Yeah,
I think, to be fair, Tonda Eckert said, I just hope it's a home draw as well, and I totally agree. Doncaster away is not what anybody wants to be doing on a Saturday, if we're being totally frank. I had a good day in the end. It was good fun, but any home game I'll take, or, of course, I would take Macclesfield away, having just completed the biggest cup upset in FA Cup history by numbers, the greatest distance between the two teams in the pyramid. I'd definitely take Macclesfield away.
That was a dream to watch, wasn't it? I think the games are going to be played on the Valentine's weekend, which would be interesting. And depending on who we get, we could be out of the cup before the £120 limited edition FA Cup shirt is delivered, because they're shipping those at the end of February. Which, by the way, they will charge you for on top of that. Strange one, Steve. I saw the kit. I thought that looks nice. I like what they've done. I like the sentiment behind it. And then I saw the price and went, ooh, no.
Yeah, I mean, but then, I mean, you go on the club website. I think it's sold out.
Yeah, there's just a couple. I think you get a small or a medium, and that's about it. So people will play the money, of course they will. But
I mean, they've in terms of kind of judging the mood, they've obviously missed the post by an absolute mile. But at the end of the day, there are enough people who will pay out for this sort of thing, especially limited edition. You'll have a load of people that will kind of, I mean, people old enough to have remembered 1976, and they'll think, I can justify shelling out 120 quid for this, even though it's probably going to sit in the box forever. But it's, I mean, I as you say, I like the design. It's a smart looking shirt. World's biggest numbers on the back of it, by the way. I mean, Alfie would have had absolutely no problem reading anybody's shirt number from the opposite side of the pitch in the press box. No names, curiously.
No names because it's a legacy, right? They didn't have names in 76.
Yeah. But could have had 1 to 11 then.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
by the way, I do think that you are the only person on this podcast that would make an observation like that, Steve. That they were big numbers, and that's why you're here.
Huge. It's ridiculous. And I see Spurs did something similar for their, I think it's 125th anniversary of when they won the cup as a Southern League side.
Well, theirs was 150 quid, and they only got to wear it once, which is quite funny.
Yes, and
by the way, they might only wear this once. It turns out they may only wear this once. They might not wear it next round. It's still undecided, which is.
But the sentiment is there, isn't it? Because 10% of the profits are going to be split. I think I read between the 1976 Cup winning squad. So if they sell out, that could be about 20 grand that they split between the squads. So the sentiment's there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're being cynical, you'd say, well, I mean, the club could, if they wanted to help the 10 remaining squad members from 76, then they can do so. Couple of grand each. That's easy enough to find. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of heard the argument. People say, well, it didn't have to do anything, which is absolutely true. They didn't have to involve them at all in this. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're kind of using it as a, well, look at how great the club are being on this. Well, if you're going to be donating a percentage of profits, then make more shirts. Then you can make more profit and sell more, and then hand off more to the team. So yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, people say they can't win, and you're absolutely right. They can't win in this scenario. But yeah, just the timing of releasing it and stuff seems odd. Like, why not do it in November, December? So people are able to kind of build up to it. People have got the shirt to wear when we go up to Doncaster in the third round. The one, as Alfie says, potentially the one time that we'll actually wear the shirt. So, I mean, they'll obviously wear it in that Legends game in March, won't they?
Yeah,
that'll be the other time. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it's more or less sold out already. So people like me grumbling about the price and stuff, well, market forces have beaten us, unfortunately.
Easy 250 grand for them.
I should also say I had a great week this week. I'm sure some of you may have seen that we produced like a 16-page FA Cup special thing in the newspaper, and I had a great week talking to I think like in the end maybe 7 or 8 of the players who actually played in that team and won the cup. And obviously, well before I was born, and I didn't know many of the stories that I'm sure some of the older fans did already know. But I had a great time. They're a great set of lads. And if anybody does want to read that, a cheeky little plug, you can still buy a backdate copy of Saturday's Echo with 16 pages on the FA Cup, interviews with all sorts of players and stuff.
And it's less than 120 quid.
Less than that. It's £1.20, I think, actually, ironically.
What a bargain. We need to move on to the whole game. Anything else on Doncaster before we do? Anything else from the weekend?
I don't think so.
Are we going to talk about?
Good to see Billy Sharp get his 15-minute run around. Not sure he actually did anything, but always.
He just made us all very nervous that he was going to score the equaliser. That's what he did.
Oh, I mean, it felt written in the stars. He
didn't help with the anxiety, did he? Sorry, Glenn, what were you going to say?
Just about the yellow kit thing. I agree with Steve's point. If they'd made twice as many of them for half the price, I think they probably would have sold more in the end. Yeah. It just worries me slightly that they'll see that as a new sort of like, maybe we can charge more for the benchmark for the regular for the regular kits next year, which is not something that I think we want to see. It's expensive enough. Yeah. Anyway, I mean I'm past that stage now, but I always think about the the parents with 3 kids or whatever, who everyone wants to be kitted out. But yeah, it's just hopefully it's not the thin end of the wedge with regard to pricing of kits. But yeah, no, look nice, and it's nice to see some of the 1976 lads still involved with promoting it, and I'd rather have Ian Turner in goal than Gavin Bazunu right now.
That seems like the perfect way to finish. Just very quickly, before we get into the whole preview, a quick heads up that tickets for our live podcast are now available to all patrons in our paid tiers. If you missed this big news over Christmas, we've partnered with the Saints Foundation, and on Thursday, January the 22nd, going to be heading to St Mary's for a special live Total Saints podcast. For some reason, they've given us access to the Halo Suite, which is incredible. If you've not been there before, it's a huge space. It overlooks the pitch. There's a bar and everything. It's going to be great. It's going to be our biggest live podcast yet. Tickets are free for all paid Patreons. They're £5 for everybody else, and every penny is going directly to the Saints Foundation to support the brilliant work that they do. Now, we've got some special guests that we're working on, some Saints memorabilia to auction off for the charity, and we'll probably all head down to the Dell for a pint afterwards as well. We're going to be sharing ticket access with our free Patreon tier from tomorrow, and tickets will remain exclusive to TSP patrons until January the 15th, and after that we will open it up on the socials to fill any remaining seats. So hopefully we will see you there. Right, to Hull. It's back to Championship fun times next week. The first of 2 home games is against Hull City. To help us preview that game, I'm pleased to say we're going to welcome back Ant Northgraves from the excellently named To Hull and Back podcast. How you doing, Ant? You right?
I'm great, guys. Yeah, I'm glad to be back on. I'm not long back since the I've just got back from the Blackburn FA Cup game today, the exhilarating 0-0 that went all the way to penalties.
What happened? I know it was 0-0, but then we came on and I didn't see what happened.
We ended up winning on penalties, so that's our first win in the FA Cup in about 2,000 days or something. We've not won in a cup since 2020. We don't tend to do very well in the cup rounds.
But into the draw, that's the main thing. Let's talk about the league. So just outside the playoffs with a game in hand. You've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the most optimistic City fan wouldn't have said that over halfway of the season we'd be right in the fight for the top 6. We were written off by most, even amongst ourselves, before the season even started. Obviously, fee restriction, really poor year last year where we only just survived on goal difference. And you're thinking, oh God, who's going to want to come when you can't spend fees? Like you're fishing in a very finite barrel of players. But credit to the recruitment team and to the manager. They brought in some fantastic players, and he's got us playing some really entertaining football, which is the polar opposite to last season. And somehow we find ourselves, like you say, in the mix for the playoffs. And it's a bit of a pinch me moment when you look at the league table and think we could actually do this. But yeah, we are Hull City. We do make it difficult.
You've got a few injuries at the moment. Is that right?
Oh, a lot of injuries, yeah. Even if
I wasn't going to use the word crisis because I didn't want to worry you, but it's heading that way, isn't it?
We're in a constant state of injury crisis. We've got another 3 today as well. Matt Crooks was in the starting lineup and he had to get replaced by Palmer because he pulled up in the warm-up. Cody Drame's gone off injured today. Darko Jaby's gone off injured today. So that's another 3 to add to the list. Obviously, Joe Gelhart's out. He's a big miss, but he should be back soonish, hopefully for your game, hopefully. And then obviously key players like Ryan Giles as well. He's been missing Samir Jay's at AFCON. We've got a really big injury. Mohamed Baloumi as well, a massive miss. He's only just come back and then gone straight back out again, which is just our luck this season.
And what about any January business? Any comings and goings? What are you expecting?
Yeah, it's difficult for us because with our current fee restriction system, we are sort of being monitored by the EFL like a hawk. So we can't bring in any more players because of the wage cap they've imposed on us until we let some go. So we've got a few players that are ready to sign from the sounds of it, but we need to shift some players out before we can bring them in. So Seni Dieng, we're looking at bringing in Kieran Dowell. We're looking at bringing him in as well. Toby Collier on loan from Man U potentially as well, but we need to, like we say, we need to shift some players out before we can bring any of these in. So maybe David Akintola on his way out, possibly Casey Palmer maybe on his way out as well. It's just, Brandon Williams as well. That sort of little experiment didn't work either. So
he still exists. Fucking hell.
He does. He's currently in our under 23s where he's been since the start of the season. He just can't get up to fitness, the poor lad. I mean, he did play for 18 months, so it's kind of understandable. But it's a shame because we've been pretty thin in the fullback positions. It'd been very handy to have him.
And you must be pretty confident going into this one at the weekend. I mean, 3-1 back in September. Despite everything that you've said, you're still going to be hoping to get a result on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quietly confident. I mean, you're not the same Southampton side that we played. Obviously, new manager, from my perspective, you're not the same. It's always a tough place to go to with St Mary's. It's a long trip as well, isn't it, for the players and that. And it's one of them. I mean, I back us against anybody this season. We kind of give managers a bit of a headache because we throw so many players forward and create so many chances that managers are in two minds. They go, do we also put loads of players forward and just say we'll score more than you, or do we try and sit back a bit and try and nullify that goal threat? So we prefer the second because then we can create a few more chances, and we do gift a lot of absolute sitters to the other team. So if you've got your shooting boots on, you'll score a couple yourselves. But we just say that if you're going to score 3, we'll score 4. That's just been the mentality all season. Like, our goal scored column is mad, but so is the goals against. I think we've only got +2 goal difference at this point. But yeah, we're absolute chaos personified, but it's fun. I love it.
That might have been the problem back in September, Alfie, because that was when I was looking at the team that started. We had Damien Downs up front. It was a bit of a Will Still masterclass, but we did have a back four. That was the thing.
Did have a back four. Had a back four of Ryan Manning, Mads Roeslev, Jack Stevens, and Taylor Harwood-Bellis, I think, and they got absolutely bullied. And Harwood-Bellis in particular, I think, for a couple of the goals, bullied by McBurney in the air, who I presume is fit and still playing.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, so, but Anne made the point of all those players that are out. I mean, guys you mentioned, I think Balumi played in September, Gelhardt played in September, Giles played in September, Diaby played in September. So there is sort of 4 of that team that beat Saints, who, by the sounds of it, won't be available. But how many times have you come up against teams that have been not at full strength and it's not been a problem for them?
Well, we played Millwall home and away, and they've had about 15 people injured the whole season, and we haven't beaten them. So.
And it's going to be a very interesting day because obviously the atmosphere could go one or two ways. I think it obviously if Hull get ahead, it will be a bloodbath. But even before the game, there's a little bit of talk about whether people are going to vent their frustrations, in some kind of pre-match demonstration. We'll yet to see if that happens. But I think things are getting a bit touchy. And you sort of mentioned, what are they going to do? Are they going to come out at us and try and score 3 goals, or are Saints going to sort of sit back and try and eat pressure? And that's the question that we're all asking as well. But I'm leaning towards he's going to go with that 3 at the back and try and be solid first. And I think that, as Ant says, that might not be the right approach, but we'll see.
It's the home game, Steve, that we need to win. So I'd assume it's going to be 5 at the back again.
Well, who knows? I mean, he might have liked what he saw in that first half yesterday, admittedly against limited opposition. And maybe, you put your better players into that formation, and who knows? Maybe it might work. It's not like everybody's been screaming about it since the summer, is it? But yeah, I mean, I must admit, I'm not expecting to start with 4 at the back on Saturday. I just feel like Eckert's wedded to this wing back system, and just sees having more defensive bodies gives us kind of theoretically more solidity. But I mean, you look at our goals against column; the statistics literally do not bear that out. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants us to play 4 at the back, but whether we'll see it, I'm not convinced. But in fairness, home record under him has been almost perfect. So yeah, I mean, we should still be looking at a first half where we start on the front foot. That's got to be the aim. And if Hull kind of want to go toe to toe for us, maybe that works to both teams' advantages, really, because it just makes it a really open game. And then it comes down to, right, who's got the clinical finishing? We've got players that in that run in Eckert's kind of interim period in charge, everything we hit was going in from Armstrong, Azaz, Cienza. So yeah, I mean, if it's an open game and we create enough chances, then yeah, there's a possibility for a fairly silly high scoring game, I think.
The problem we've got, Glenn, is this is the start of a 3-game week which ends at Fratton Park. So when you look at it in the context of the whole week, then if you're going to lose one, yeah, it's a huge week, isn't it?
I think we're in the position now where we can't pick and choose, if you can ever do that anyway. You know, we've accused Tonda in the past of not looking at the game that is immediately in front of him and trying to look 2-3 games ahead or whatever and resting players and all that stuff. So you can't really tell whether he's going to do anything silly. Hopefully, you know, we've got a week, obviously, from now until that game. He puts all the players out there who should be playing. With regards to the way we set up defensively against someone like McBurney, whether you play 3 centre halves or 2, they've just got to compete.
Yeah.
You know, it comes down to individual players. How up are you for the battle that you are undoubtedly going to get? That game up at Hull was awful because we just didn't compete with him. It was, I think, 3 headers in our. I mean, that game was the beginning of the end for Will Steele, wasn't it? That was the game where, you know, he called out Jack Stevens, Taylor Harwood-Bellis at the end, dropped him for the following game, dropped the goalkeeper, and it never really recovered from that point on. And he was always going to go after that. So we got to. It should be fairly obvious to anyone who saw that game or has watched a video of it what the problems were. And I know Hull will have different players as discussed, but they're still going to try and play the same way, and we've got to make sure our little collection of little tiny players don't get absolutely bullied, which is what happened last time. I mean, it was 3-1 in the end. That flattered us.
Yeah.
It was 3-0 and we scored in the 94th minute or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
Adam Armstrong.
Yeah, it's just one of those games where you're just watching it and you're just sick of the sight of everything by the time the consolation goal goes in and everyone goes, yeah, whatever, so what? But ultimately it didn't make any difference, and Will Steele was sacked a few weeks later. So no, I think this is a very tough game. I don't think the 3-game week will come into it. I think if he is gonna mess around, it'll be the Sheffield United game,
which is the Wednesday night. Is it the Wednesday? Yeah.
So I think he'll go into this one because I don't think we're far away with everything that's going on with the ownership and stuff. I don't think we're far away from another Preston type game where we have put in a dismal performance and the crowd turns again, and that's got to be what Hull are aiming for. You know, Hull have got to aim to get in front, still be in front at half time, and then watch us
unravel. Yeah.
Watch us eat ourselves in the second half with everybody having a go at each other. So tough game.
You're going to bring a few down, Ant. What's the away end going to be like?
I'm not sure actually. I think so, because I think the like we say the spirits are high at the minute, and we've done really, really well away from home the last few weeks. Actually, I think we've won at Middlesbrough, we've won at Millwall. We've got some big wins against some big teams in the league, and we're kind of having to sort of be a bit more defensive and less trying to score 3 or 4 goals in a game now, because of, like we say, with the players who we're missing, we're struggling to create and score as many goals as we was. Like Giles is a massive miss, because that partnership between him and McBurney was electric. Like that the amount of assists he's done for McBurney's goals was mad. And then, like we say, Gelhardt, he's got 10 goals himself before he's been injured as well. So we are missing these kind of players, but we've had to sort of solidify up a bit and just try and get 1 or 2 goals and then get ourselves over the line. So we might see a little bit of a change in playing style from when you played us last. But yeah, I think everyone goes up there quite quietly confident. Like I say, I think we all back ourselves to give anybody a game in at this level this season, because we kind of go, we don't care how good you are, we're just going to keep trying to score goals, and that's the main thing. And I think everyone's got this sense of optimism now this season that we might actually be able to do something. So hopefully we take quite a few.
Fair play, and it's working out. I was just going to ask you, did they rest a few for the cup game today, or have you not got that option at the moment?
They didn't actually. It was a surprisingly strong lineup that they put out. I think it took everybody by surprise. McBurney started. I think we only made 3 changes from the last league game. It was a pretty strong squad actually, and we didn't actually play that well, to be fair. Very bitty, attritional kind of cup game that just it was an awful 0-0, I'll be honest. But yeah, I think he's trying to, because we didn't play against Watford because of the postponement. I think he's trying to just keep them players fresh going into the game, because it's almost like we're just playing on a weekend like it would be a normal league game. So rather than rest them, I think he's just trying to keep them ticking over, kind of thing.
What was your view on that Watford thing, by the way? Because obviously with all the injuries you've got, Watford in a rich vein of form, and that game getting called off for that patch of ice, like on the site, like not even on the pitch. From the outside, that looks a little bit suspicious.
It does. I mean, the thing is like, we've had injuries and that many injuries throughout the entire season. So to use that as an excuse at that point would just be daft. With the pitch was completely playable. Like we say, it was just the surrounding areas. It wasn't just the technical area. It was all around the outside. So apparently there was a question mark on the players' safety when they're taking throw-ins and corners and stuff, because the ice was on the outside of it. There was some weird conspiracy that we'd had the sprinklers on all night the night before. Like, but the pitch was fine. So obviously that wasn't true. But
no, conspiracy, don't we?
The Watford fans were absolutely adamant that happened. But no, it's weird because the only 2 people that have got the authority to call a game off are the ref and the EFL. We actually wanted to play the game. The timing of the decision is just weird, because that frozen side of the pitch had been like that. I would have assumed from the ref
all morning,
turning up at 1 o'clock. Yeah, so I don't know why. I think what they've done is the refs turned up and then said, "Do you reckon you could get it to melt beforehand?" And then we obviously went out with blowtorches and all this different kind of stuff, and had a tractor with a heater going over the top of it and stuff to try and melt it. And he's waited as long as possible to get it on, and then go, "Nah, we can't do it." But like you say, it's just fans that get screwed over all the time, isn't it? Like it's a long trek from Watford, and 15 minutes before kickoff is nuts. Like that's really.
And you've got another game
to
that
come
you've
up
got to
again
try
midweek now, aren't they?
You've got a game you've got to try and squeeze in now in the middle of your injury problems.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and go, it doesn't do us a favour because the injury list. We probably would have got tonked 4-0. But no, it wasn't anything. There was no sinister ulterior motive from ourselves, I don't think. Yeah.
Just, Ant, before you go, I'd just like to ask you, just for a line on 2 of your recent previous managers. You've Liam Rossini, now manager of Chelsea, and our very own Ruben Selles. What have you got to say about those 2?
Yeah. So Ruben came in, and like last season was just a car crash, obviously taken over from Rossini. Whether anybody agreed with that sacking or not, we'll start with Rossini first, actually. Like He came in and fixed us when we were an absolute basket case under Arveladze, kept us up comfortably in the end. And then obviously the season after, we assembled a really good team with the likes of Fabio Cavallio, Jadon Philogene, Liam Delap, etc. John Michael Seri as well, Jacob Greaves. We had a really good team. The league was really tough that season, like yourselves, Leeds. There was some really good teams in the league that season. So for us to actually get up there and compete was always going to be tough. And yes, we did miss out on the top 6, but we also missed Liam Delap for 6 months. We missed Jane Philogene for 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? So we did have key components missing in that running. And the issue with the owner was that he wants entertaining football, like what we've got this season. That's what he wants. He wants absolute chaos, goals galore. And Rossini, unfortunately, was possession based. You know, don't take a risk, keep the ball, try and just sort of maneuver the way through. Yeah, a bit like you guys will have experienced with Russell Martin. Yeah. And that football, you know, it was very, very dull to watch, but we did finish 7th. So it's like, you know, it's one of them. I was on the fence. Like, I didn't mind that he went, but I would have quite happily seen him do at least another year, because he is a very young manager who's I'm sure will do very well at Chelsea. He's gone to Strasbourg. He's adapted a bit as a manager, which is what he needed to do. Started to play different formations, and he's trying to play a bit more on the front foot. And I think he still might be a bit too early for Chelsea. You know, but I do think that he has got the minerals to do that, and he's got the players to sort of play that style of football now at Chelsea, and he's got the money to do so. Selles inherited an absolute horror show. Obviously, we replaced Rossini with Tim Volter, who was just like, he's still not got a job now. That's how bad he was. He's just somewhere existing. I don't know where he is.
He hasn't got Ruben's agent.
Yeah, he was horrendous. We didn't. Yes, he had his hands tied really with how late we did transfer business and stuff, and we did suffer a lot with injuries. We had 3 ACL injuries last season to Liam Miller, Elliot Matazo, and Mohamed Baloumi. So 3 key players out for a year. We brought in Louis Barry, we thought would be very good, and he got like a a knee ligament injury instantly, which pretty much wrote off his season as well. So we just didn't have any luck really. Couldn't score goals for the life of us, but Sellers did get us over the line. And I'd have been quite happy to see him have another year here. A lot of fans didn't like him. Again, it's just sort of chalk and cheese, a bit Marmite. But I was surprised at how bad he did at Sheffield United. And I think he's at Zaragoza now or something like that in Spain.
Yeah, we weren't surprised at all.
I've heard bad things from Southampton fans about Sellers. But I didn't mind him. He made us defensively solid. I think when he came in, we were 24th when he took over. And the league table after he took us over, I think we were like 12th in the table. So
can't argue with that, can you?
Yeah, so he did okay. He did the job. He got us over the line. It wasn't very entertaining at all. I'm not going to pretend it was, but he did the job. And we're in this position we are this season because Sellers saved us last season. So I'll be grateful for him.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to get a score prediction from you, Ant, before I let you go. How do you see this one playing out on Saturday?
I'm usually like a 3-2 or a 2-1 kind of guy because the amount of goals that are in our games this season. But we have, like I say, we've sort of retreated back a bit and been a bit more solid due to key players being missing and stuff. So I'm going to go for a very edgy 1-1. I think it'll be a good game.
Okay,
yeah.
we probably take that.
And before you go, how are Hull on set pieces?
Awful.
Defending and attacking?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Probably the worst team in the league at taking set pieces. It's really frustrating. Short corners always amount to nothing, and then when we take a corner, we never ever beat the first man. It's incredibly frustrating.
That might change on Saturday if they
that changes my prediction as well.
Hopefully, we need a miracle to improve at set pieces.
Nice one. Cheers, Ant. Enjoy the rest of the season. We'll catch up. Well, we might even get each other in the cup. You never know. So
maybe
we'll catch up later in the year, I'm sure. Thanks, Ant.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Good luck.
Thanks for coming on. Let's whiz round and do predictions. Alfie, you changed your mind? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, based on that, because we're dreadful at defending set pieces, clearly. So Glenn and Steve make a good point. If he's done his homework, he'll find a way to get one through us. But I would have gone for a 2-2 on the back of that because if Hull are going to sit back and be a bit more defensive, they can still find a couple of goals through that way. But if they can't, I'm still going to predict the win. I'll go for a 1-1 as well.
1-1. All right, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think. I mean, as we discussed, I think if Hull do start the game on the front foot, at home we've generally done the same. Under Eckert, it's away from home and especially second halves where we've not quite kind of grasped things properly in the last month or so. But at home, I think we'll start the game strong, and if we get a goal ahead, then all of a sudden the game opens up and you can kind of pluck a score out of thin air, really. I don't know why. I just kind of fancy us to get back on the scoring trail. Defensively, we still look an absolute train wreck, don't we? But why not have one of those absolutely mental fun games for once? 4-3 win.
Glenn?
So we've had 1 win, 1 draw, and I'll take the defeat option. It worries me. It just worries me a little bit how Tonda's going to approach this game with regards to players he uses. I think I can predict what players he uses. I think he'll bring
the spreadsheet will be out again.
Well, I think he'll bring Ryan Manning back. He'll bring Nathan Wood back. He'll bring Finn Azaz back. I can see that. I'd be surprised if the players who played well against Doncaster are rewarded with a start in this particular game. I can't really be very optimistic about this one. I just think that Hull will have a little bit too much physicality for us, and it will be a struggle as the game goes on. Hopefully, we start well. I mean, if we start well and we get to half time in front, then there's obviously a chance we might draw. We could go on and win it. Yeah, 2-0 up with a minute to go, we might get a draw. But no, I mean, it doesn't matter what I say anyway because I always get this wrong. But yeah, I would just say on probabilities, I can see us getting beat 2-1.
Now, I would say that I am worried. I'm more worried now than probably probably before. It does just seem that there's nothing positive coming out of the club, and I'm sure there's loads of great people at the club. I'm sure there is players, staff, whoever, everyone behind the scenes. But it just feels as though no matter what you sort of ask about, what sort of question you ask yourself, what you look into, it just seems that everything is a bit negative at the moment. Nothing's going particularly well. And it worries me. I think there's some kind of stink around the club at the moment. It does worry me on and off the pitch to an extent, I suppose. So yeah, I'm not sure if we turn this around. And someone made the point in our TSP patrons group chat today that you actually only get 2 years of parachute payments when you come down as a first-year relegation team, and unless there's some kind of rule that because we were there for 10 years before that we don't count, that means we've got one season next season to get things right before it becomes really, really difficult. And
that's how I understood it.
And I don't know if that's enough time. I mean, you look at the amount of turnover that I think this club needs in between now and then. I don't think you can get that right in one window. Certainly not if we perform to the level that we have, on and off the field this season in terms of recruitment and team performances. It's not going to change next season, so it does worry me a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit bleak.
Yeah, but
trust them to get it right either.
Teams do get promoted without parachute payments. I mean, Coventry and Middlesbrough could well go up this year. Ipswich went up the season we went up without parachute payments. It just means that you don't have the ability to basically outspend the rest of the league, which means that you've got to get a larger percentage of your recruitment decisions in particular. You've got to get them right, and your managerial appointments, you've got to get it right. And Sport Republic, bless them, their percentage is not high, so it just makes it a lot more difficult. That's why they always say it's the best time to get promoted is in your first season down. Now we've probably already butchered that, to be honest. Certainly with regards to getting automatic promotion. So yeah.
Gosh, can you imagine if we somehow burgled a playoff win? Think how bad we'd be next season.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But you'd have another 100 million quid to do it again next season. So it's one of those.
It just doesn't bear thinking about. I mean, you'd have to sign players. You couldn't. No, I can't even get into it. You'd have to sign players that would 100% improve the first team. You couldn't buy any squad fillers or anything like that. Yeah. And have we learnt the lessons?
No.
Yeah. But, no.
If you want to share your optimism, if you want to play along with the predictions, all you need is your Patreon login. You'll find the leaderboard and how to play on the website. Just head over to totalsaints.co.uk for that one. A little bit of any other business before we finish. Did anyone see the women's team? Great result yesterday. I know it was a scheduled clash, wasn't it? And we spoke about this last week, but a 4-0 win against Pompey. 7,500 supporters inside St Mary's yesterday, which I thought was brilliant. That makes that 10 games unbeaten against the women now. So that was a nice little result. A nice little bit of positive news. Transfers as well. Ronnie Edwards was a strange one, Glenn, to Queen's Park Rangers. 4.5 million quid. Now, there's two sides to this story. Bit of profit after 18 months at the club, but the other side is that's a bit short-sighted at the moment. So I'd be interested to see what you think on that.
It does seem very, very short-term thinking. I mean, profit is there really? I think Peterborough owed a percentage as well, so you could argue whether there's any profit at all. Maybe enough to buy one of those new shirts, but there's certainly not much profit on it. I mean, we've sold him to a championship rival. Yeah, he clearly wants to go there. So. Apparently, there's some family connection with QPR. Everyone says that, don't they? So, so that might be a draw for him. He was obviously there under a different manager last year and did well. And I think that's the problem. The fact that he did well in this league before, we're struggling. He hasn't been brilliant when he's played this season, but you feel there's a lot of potential there. I feel like he's got a higher ceiling as a player than Josh Kwasi, than Nathan Wood, certainly than Jack Stevens. So it does seem a little bit short-sighted. I can see something happening in the summer where Taylor Harwood-Bellis leaves, and we're then looking around for a replacement, and we're going to have to spend probably more than we've just got for him in order to find a replacement, unless we take another 100-to-1 gamble out of Bundesliga League 7 or whatever. So yeah, it's a strange one. I've calmed down a little bit since the initial day, mainly because his performances have not been marvellous. But at the end of the day, he's only 22. Centre-backs don't really come of age until they're a little bit older. So I feel like, we've done well to recruit him in the first place when he played well with Peterborough, and we've kind of given up on it. And on whose say so?
Exactly.
The only managers we've had who kind of used it is basically Will Still, and Tonda Eckert's obviously seen him in training, and neither of those managers have proved yet that they know their arse from their elbow. But we've given up on this potentially very good player, England under-21 player, remember? And flogged him off to QPR, who are in our league, the sort of team we're going to be competing against this season, next season, for what doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, if for example, Middlesbrough had come in and offered us 10 million quid, then you could kind of say, okay, I can kind of see why that one makes sense from a financial point of view. And you've also got the fact that, we gave a 3-year contract to our 31-year-old rapidly dwindling inability centre half as well at the start of the season. And I think that's the kind of thing where, again, you're trying to tally it all up and thinking, does this make sense?
Well, if you do tally up, Glenn, do a bit of fag box maths, and you say, all right, well, let's say Jack Stevens is on 30k a week, because that's the general consensus for the top earners at this club. Maybe he's on less, who knows? It's not that important. But let's say it's 30. Over 3 years, that contract is £4.5 million. The money we've just received from Ronnie Edwards, who in 3 years' time is going to be a better player than Jack Stevens. There's no doubt about that. He's going to still be a player in 3 years' time. So for me, it just smacks of short-termism thinking. I know that, as you said, Glenn, you made a great point. He hasn't been brilliant for Saints. He's only really had one run of games, and that was under Will Still. He played his last 8 games for Will Still, and then obviously Tonda hasn't used him since. He hasn't had a run of games. He's played it right back at times. He's proven in the Championship. He's obviously got potential. Could you not just loan him back to QPR for 6 months and let him play some games, scratch that itch a little bit, and then have a look next season? As Glenn rightly pointed out, we're now going to have to probably replace Harwood-Bellis if we don't go up and pay someone more than what we got for Ronnie. So, for me, it doesn't make any sense. The club were adamant they weren't going to sell him for a small fee in the summer. They rejected offers from QPR. Now, maybe it was only offers of 4.5 million. Maybe it wasn't any more than that. But they were adamant they wouldn't sell for less than whatever it is, 8, 9, 10. So, I don't quite get that one. But I think it's indicative of the fact that they overspent in the summer. And I said on the podcast this summer and since, and some people agree, some people don't, but they did overspend. They didn't plan to spend as much as they did without getting rid of players like Joe Rebo, Samadozi, and all this lot. And now it's like we're paying the price for that. We've almost had to let go of this talent that we think could be good for £4.5 million, which isn't that much money, because we failed to get rid of those players. That's what it feels like to me, which is a failing.
And we've had to spend another £500,000 on a goalkeeper covering the wages.
Yeah. It also... obviously, don't forget we brought Romeo in sort of as a free agent midway through. So that's another million and a half on wages for the season, we assume. And I mean, the only way the Edwards sale makes any sense, if you look at the centre backs that we've got kind of in and around the first team, Harwood-Bellis is probably the guy that will fetch the most money, but nobody's going to be signing him mid-season. Jack Stevens, nobody's going to be signing him because he's under contract on a good contract, and nobody who would be interested in signing him will be paying him anywhere near the same sort of money. Josh Kwasi, we've only just signed, so we're not going to get rid of him straight away. He's in and around the first team. He's getting games. Nathan Wood was signed for basically the same fee as Edwards. And would anybody be interested in signing Nathan Wood?
Not for more than that, no. Not yet.
No. So the only way this deal makes sense, as he's probably the easiest of our current centre backs to sell. I say current as of 3 days ago. He was the easiest one to sell, and maybe, hopefully, somebody within the corridors of St Mary's has realised that there is a problem defensively with our centre backs, and maybe they've identified somebody they want to bring in, but they would have to clear out a space for them.
Yeah.
And if the only one you can get rid of, the only one that there is active interest in is Ronnie Edwards, because that QPR have been phoning us up every week saying, "Can we have Ronnie, please, lads?" Then okay, maybe we do a deal, get let him go reluctantly, and we get the money in, create a squad space, and now somebody who is going to make a tangible difference, who is obviously better than the other centre backs that we've already got. If they're available and they can come in and fill that space, then absolutely fine. And I think from a getting through, looking for the next 18 months, I wouldn't have a problem with that being the kind of pragmatic decision they've made. If it turns out that they were only selling him because Ronnie kicked up a bit of a stink and said, look, Gaffer, I want to play games. If you're not going to pick me, can you sell me, please? Then that's another screw up on whoever. Well, Johannes Sports presumably would be the one clearing that transfer to go through. And yeah, well, I guess we wait until the end of the month for
it does feel like another judgment at the end of the transfer window, doesn't it? And that didn't work out too well last time. Just a quick word on Bazunu, Alfie. That seems to have come out of nowhere tonight. Looks like he might be off to Stoke. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know any more than the media reports that's been done, but it's in the Irish Independent, so it's going to be reliable. I think it was quite clear that he would be leaving a couple of days ago when they signed Daniel Peretz. On the record, didn't quite confirm as much, but he said quite categorically that we're going to keep George Long, and we'll see what happens with Bazunu. We've got to make sure we get the right decision for him and the club, which, if anybody speaks football, that almost always means they're going to leave. So it was pretty clear. And it makes sense because, we've got George Long on loan, who's not going to play a game. Alex McCarthy has spent a good portion of his Saints career being a backup goalkeeper. From what we know, he hasn't kicked up a fuss about that. Obviously, he'd love to play. I'm sure he'd love to play. He probably backs himself to play still because whenever Bazunu has been in the team, he always knows he's not too far away from being called back up. But ultimately, he's somebody you can have as a number 2 and doesn't kick up a fuss. And then Daniel Peretz has clearly been promised a number 1 shirt. So it made total sense they try and get rid of Bazunu. That Irish Independent report says that they've got an 8 million buy clause. Now, Victor Johansson... That's a
loss, though, isn't it? Because did we not pay... What did we pay for him? 12 million?
Yes, of course, but let's be realistic. Let's look at his numbers for the last 4 years and accept that, all right, we're not going to make money on him.
And that would be an accounting profit.
Yeah, good point, because of the amortization. But from a Stokes point of view, they've got Victor Johansson, who has had shoulder surgery and will be out for a long period of time, it seems. And I think he goes into the last year of his contract next season. So it may be that they want to, someone said that, I think it may have been in this preamble, it may be that they want to get some money back for him, and then they go and buy Gavin Bazunu for £8 million with that money. But I think that Gavin will probably be back here in July.
I do think it's harsh, people saying that we need to insist in the terms of the loan that he plays against us. I thought that was a bit... he has to start at the end of January. I thought that was a bit uncalled for.
Oh, you've still said it anyway. We've all laughed at it.
I'll tell you what, so, those league tables that we talk about goalkeepers and all that, and about shots saved and all that.
Well, they're going to have the top and the bottom, aren't they?
Victor Johansson finishes top of those. He saves 81% of the shots that are on him, and Gavin's the same, except for the numbers around the other way.
I'm waiting for the messages because we normally get messages from other podcasts, don't we? So can you come on and talk about? And that'd be interesting. Having to go onto a Stoke podcast and talk about.
By all accounts, they've had a academy goalkeeper who they've recalled from Leyton Orient, who's come in and played 3 games and kept 3 clean sheets. But they've still gone on board. Still gone and loaned Gavin Bazunu. So interesting.
There you go. I know you mentioned the FA Cup special at the weekend, Alfie. I wanted to mention Martin Chivers as well, because I thought there were some really nice pieces on the site and on the newspaper about tributes paid to him, of course. I think he passed away on Wednesday last week. Born in Regent's Park, played for Saints, sold to Spurs, £125,000, I think it was, a British record at the time. And I know, like Benali's column this week, he was talking about it as well. So
and Mick Shannon as well. I had a phone call from Mick Shannon's son, great guy, Michael. He gave me a call and said, Mick never talks to journalists, but he wants you to give him a call. Can you blah blah blah? So I gave him a ring, and I think Mick was quite upset with the Martin Chivers news, because obviously he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? For local, he described him as a proper thoroughbred mush, someone who's born in the city, lived in the city, raised in the city, and obviously he relates everything to horses, does Mick, as everyone will know. But yeah, it was a nice. Obviously, I didn't know much at all, obviously. But from what people say about him, a proper, he would have got on the modern game, a big lad with a good left peg and right peg.
Yeah, some wonderful tributes paid. Anything else before we wrap up for this week?
Just on Martin Chivers, he was a little bit, we sold him to Spurs in 1968, which is the year I was born. So it's obviously before my time. Never saw him play, but he was one of the players that my dad always talks about watching in the 60s, along with Ron Davis. And when I did a little bit of research on Chivers' career, older people remember a famous game at Wembley in 1973 when England drew with Poland and subsequently didn't qualify for the World Cup in '74. Chivers and Mick Shannon started that game. And that was the last time Chivers ever played for England. And it's an interesting that Alfie brings up Mick Shannon, because apparently when Chivers went to Spurs, Saints weren't that worried because they had Shannon coming through at the time. So it's interesting how these things all kind of tie together. But
well, Mick was moaning in his tribute that he had to play at left wing because of Chivers when he was sort of 16, 17, 18.
Chivers and Ron Davis.
What a time to be alive. What a problem to have. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything tonight. It's been a busy one. Don't forget you can follow Total Saints Podcast on all the usual social media platforms. Check out the merch store as well, because I think Glenn and I are wearing the 1976 hoodies. It's not going to cost you 125 quid.
No.
They're available to go now, and the postage is a bit more reasonable as well. So if you want to grab yourself one of those, it's shop.totalsaints.co.uk. Not that I was annoyed about it. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also find us on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contributions. Patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. Each of the tiers comes with its own perks, including some shout outs for patrons in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tiers. So thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Peter Montalabo, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, Red 76 Tax, Michael Blackmer, David Mansell, and Nick Gardner. They're in our Francis Benali tier. Thanks also to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bobin, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, John Peacock, and Andy, who are all in our Mick Shannon tier. Thank you as well to Paul Castle Associates and Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP. Thank you to Steve, Alfie, and to Glenn. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.